He was mopping the lobby floor of her billion-dollar building when she pointed at him and said, "You. Tonight. You're going to be my boyfriend." The mop clattered against the marble tiles. The security guard laughed. The receptionist covered her mouth. But Elena Vargas, CEO of Vargas Enterprises and one of the most powerful women in the country, did not blink once. She had 3 hours before the most important gala of her career, a board dinner where her investors expected to see a stable, grounded woman, not a single, ruthless executive who, according to the tabloids, was too cold to love. She needed a man by her side. She needed him. And Daniel Cole, a quiet janitor with calloused hands and tired eyes, had no idea that one accidental moment of honesty was about to unravel everything he had spent years trying to hide. If this story already has you leaning forward, please take a second right now to like this video, drop a comment below, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because every story here is built on the belief that kindness changes everything. Daniel almost said no. In fact, every instinct he had told him to say no. He was 34 years old, raising a 7-year-old daughter named Mia entirely on his own, working 2 jobs just to keep her in a warm apartment and a decent school. He had no time for games, no energy for pretending, and absolutely no business walking into a world of crystal chandeliers and tailored suits. But Elena had looked at him differently from everyone else in that lobby. She had not looked past him the way the executives did, as if he were furniture attached to a mop. She had looked directly at him, steadily, and in that look was something he recognized, the specific exhaustion of someone carrying far more than people could see. He said yes. Not for the money she offered, though the number she named could cover 3 months of Mia's tuition. He said yes because of how her shoulders dropped with relief the moment he nodded, and something in his chest remembered what it felt like to be the person someone was relieved to have. Elena's assistant produced a fitted dark navy suit from somewhere within the hour. Daniel stood in the executive bathroom, staring at himself in the mirror, and barely recognized the man looking back. He had once worn suits like this every single day. He had once walked into rooms like the one he was about to enter and owned them completely. That was a different lifetime, before the accident that took his wife, before the company collapse that followed, before he had stripped everything away to protect the one thing that still mattered. He straightened his collar, picked up his phone to check on Mia with her neighbor, and walked out to meet Elena in the hallway. She stopped when she saw him. For just a second, something shifted in her expression, not surprise exactly, but recognition, as if some part of her had already known that the man mopping the lobby was not what he appeared to be. She did not ask. He did not explain. They rode down in the elevator in a silence that felt, strangely, like the most honest conversation either of them had shared with another person in a very long time. The grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel was filled with the city's most powerful people, investors, board members, politicians, and their perfectly curated spouses. Elena walked in on Daniel's arm and the room shifted the way rooms only shift when something unexpected has entered them. People stared. Whispers spread like smoke. Elena held her chin high and smiled the practiced smile of a woman who had survived every boardroom they had ever tried to remove her from. But Daniel did something she had not anticipated. He talked to people. Not with performance or strategy, but with the easy, warm, unhurried attention of someone who genuinely listened. He remembered names after hearing them once. He asked the kind of questions that made people feel seen. He laughed in a way that made others laugh without knowing why. Elena watched from across the room as her most skeptical board member, a cold, silver-haired man named Hargrove who had voted against her in the last 3 meetings, leaned toward Daniel and shook his hand with both of his. She crossed the room and touched Daniel's arm to pull him aside, and that was when it happened. Hargrove's associate, an older man from the London office who had flown in just for this event, went perfectly still. He stared at Daniel the way people stare when the world has just tilted sideways under their feet. Then, slowly, with a voice like someone reading from a dream, the man said one name, not Daniel Cole, the name on the building's employment roster, but another name entirely. A name that made every conversation in their corner of the room stop cold. A name that had once appeared on the cover of 3 international business magazines in the same year. A name that belonged to the founder of Teravance Global, a company that had quietly, methodically, and without a single press release, become the majority silent shareholder of Vargas Enterprises itself. Elena turned and looked at Daniel. He met her eyes without flinching, and in his gaze was everything she had not been able to name since the elevator, the weight of a man who had chosen to disappear not out of weakness, but out of love. After the collapse of his first company, after the grief, after the chaos, he had sold everything, dissolved his identity in the press, and started over with nothing but Mia and his own 2 hands, because he had decided that his daughter would never grow up watching her father chase power at the cost of the people around him. He had built Teravance quietly, from the ground up, remotely, under a legal structure so carefully designed that not even the investment firms knew who sat at the center of it. He had taken the janitor position at Vargas Enterprises 3 months ago because the company had caught his attention, because Elena had caught his attention, and because he had wanted to understand, from the inside, what she was truly made of. The room was absolutely silent. Hargrove set down his glass. Elena's assistant made a sound like a small bird. And Daniel stood in his borrowed suit, completely still, watching Elena's face as she processed every piece of it, the arrangement, the truth, the strange and impossible tenderness of a man who had been mopping her floors and voting to protect her company at the same time, without her ever knowing. If this story moved something inside you, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that the most extraordinary people are often hiding in plain sight. Your support helps Kindness Corner keep telling stories that matter. Elena did not say anything grand. She did not have a speech prepared for this. She simply looked at him for a long, quiet moment, and then she did the one thing no one in that room expected from the most composed woman in the city: she laughed. Soft and real and slightly undone, the laugh of someone who has just realized that life has been kinder to them than they deserved. Daniel smiled, and it was the first genuine smile he had worn in public in 4 years. Later that night, long after the gala ended and the chandeliers dimmed, he showed her a photo on his phone, Mia, 7 years old, missing her front tooth, holding up a crayon drawing of a man and a little girl under a rainbow. Elena stared at it for a long time. And something that had been locked inside her for years quietly, finally, opened. Before this story ends, drop the word truth in the comments right now. Just that one word. You'll understand why later. Some people wear their wealth like armor. Others wear their poverty like a disguise. And sometimes, the person you barely noticed, the one you looked past in the lobby, is the very person the universe sent to remind you that you were never as alone as you believed. Daniel Cole never wanted to be found. But kindness has a way of leading people exactly where they were always meant to be. A Kindness Corner original story.